Thank you to everybody for joining this panel. As I was saying in the previous panels, our forum today aims to showcase the competitive advantages and leadership of Hong Kong across several areas. And one of those areas is exactly Hong Kong as a financing and capital raising center. So we have with us a great panel. Uh, I would like to turn it over to Edward Liu, from Hill Dickinson, who is going to moderate the panel. I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for being with us. And Edward, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Nicholas. And it's my great pleasure to be a moderator of this very distinguished panel members, which I'm now going to introduce. Today we have Mr. James Tong, the Managing Director, Head Asia Pacific and Japan Global Shipping and Logistics, Head of Diversified Industrials China from Citibank, and Mr. Jack Xu, the Deputy Head of Shipping, CMB Financial Leasing Co. Limited, and Mr. Kenneth Lam, Managing Director of Credit Agricole CIB, and Mr. Julian Proctor, Managing Director of EnTrust Global, and last but not least, Mr. Gautam Khurana, CFO of Precious Shipping, and welcome you to join today's panel discussion today for the shipping and financial capital raising hub topics. I think it's more appropriate for us to start with the US election, as it is still the most topical issue. But of course, we all know that Mr. Joe Biden, as the president-elect, will definitely be the next president of the US. And of course, that the US as the superpower in the world is still have the most influential on everything, including the financial aspect. And indeed, Hong Kong has encountered quite a number of difficulties because of the tension between US and China. So I would like to invite James to comment first that what kind of impact that it might bring to Hong Kong, the shipping cluster, you think, if thinks that Mr. Biden will become the next US president in January next year. James, please.
Thank you, Edward, for your question. I don't really think that there will be a lots of abrupt changes to the Hong Kong as a financial center, whether it's Trump or Biden as a president, because a financial center is not established just in one day. It has been established by decades of profession and also by experience. That in fact, you will see that there might be some confidence in the Hong Kong situation, whether it's political or not, but when it comes to financials, I think it is very hard to just rebuild another city to replace Hong Kong immediately. I think there might be other financial center coming in the market, but ultimately it's also the DNA and also the decades of professionalism that created in Hong Kong that cannot be replaced immediately. And also Hong Kong is remaining for a numbers of important roles in terms of even as renminbi offshore center. And then this is still considered one of the freest city for business. I think that will all be beneficial to shipping companies. And the recent rollout of the Hong Kong government about leasing in Hong Kong is also part of that, makes Hong Kong continue to be evolving for the shipping industry. Honestly, earlier the decade, Singapore has come up with a shipping hub. They have got a lot of shipping banks and then another ancillary business of the shipping that moved to Singapore to become a really shipping hub. But ultimately, when it comes to volume and size, North Asia is where the sizable transaction is happening. So I still think that Hong Kong will play a very important role, but is ever evolving, whether it's Biden or Trump as the president.
Yeah, thank you, James. I think that the stability and the predictability is more important, I think, for Hong Kong and not only for the financial sectors. How about you, Julian? I understand that you are traveling, still traveling a lot despite of the COVID pandemic. and also that your company is not only focused on shipping, but much wider perspective of fundraising. So what's your view regarding Hong Kong, probably as from a wider picture as a financial center, not only for shipping?
You know, I mean, we are a large asset management firm, right? So we invest across a wide number of asset classes. Maritime is a very important part of what we do, and I run our equity business within EnTrust related to maritime transportation. Now, regarding Hong Kong, you know, I think that we still have by far the deepest and largest capital market when it comes to raising equity, and the depth of our banking sector as well. So as relates to the future and maritime in particular, I think we're an incredibly attractive place to raise money. It may look as though we're having a rough few years now, but when we step back and we take a 5, 10-year, 15-year view, I'm incredibly confident that we're going to see Hong Kong continue to succeed and really continue to play that super important role, which has always played historically, which has been acting as a great gateway between China and the rest of Asia and also the West. And I think that's going to continue and it's going to flourish. We have great languages here, we have great institutions, we have a really deep market, and we've got a super intelligent and well-skilled population. And we got the largest, if not the second, maybe possibly the largest economy on our doorstep. So these are phenomenal opportunities. There's a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. And I think it's a really good starting of today's discussion, because we start with the U.S. election, and we all know that, as I also mentioned, the relationship, like the economic and the geopolitical challenges being encountered by Hong Kong. So taking the benefits of this so diversified panel today, I'd like to invite Jack probably first, and then Kenneth and Gautam, each of you to comment on the issue that how, as a global shipping center, how could Hong Kong, in a bid to navigate these kind of challenges and chart a new direction from your perspective, like from a Chinese perspective, and then Hong Kong perspective and overseas. So Jack, you may please. Jack, please open your still mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
Edward. Yes, we all know that Hong Kong was one of the business ports in the world. Yes. Just after the time when the China mainland opening up around the 1980s. So during that time, Hong Kong acted as a transshipment center. So that time fed on China's rapid economic rise. But we can see just over the past decade, so Hong Kong has lost its top position in the global ranking for the port volume and transit. So I think maybe that's because more advanced, sophisticated ship center have been springing up in mainland, especially in the Greater Bay Area like Shenzhen and Guangzhou City. And what's more, due to the fallout from the US-China trade war and longer-term migration of low-end manufacture to Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Thailand. So shipping trade through Hong Kong is likely to come under continued pressure. So Hong Kong shall leverage its unique advantage, just like James mentioned, such as financial center, to form the complementary function with other cities in the Great Bay Area. So this is very important for Hong Kong. Actually, like Julian also mentioned, Hong Kong is a wide gateway connecting China with global financial markets. Hong Kong provides access to foreign currency. You know, in Shanghai, all of the Chinese leasing houses like us, like SBC, Gautam, we have issued bonds in Hong Kong capital market. So Hong Kong provides access a lot of functions to access the global market, capital market, and play a crucial role in integrating China's financial system with global market. Despite the growing importance of domestic financial centers like Shanghai, so all of the Chinese leasing house, bigger leasing house based in Hong Kong, based in Shanghai, like us, and based in Beijing. But Hong Kong, I have to say, has no real competitors within China for this role for shipping finance center. And also together with the legal system and the regulators like Money Authority and the Future Commission, SFC, so they have very good international track record and very good legal environment. Also, this is very important, I think. And these institutional elements are accompanied by a sophisticated market infrastructures and professional services experienced in dealing with both PRC and international markets, together with auditing, bank services, lawyers, and equity analysts, and the service chain is well developed for shipping finance. So we understand the top Chinese lessors have issued more than 25 billion US dollars bonds, and maybe part of just arranged by James Citi Bank or other European banks, which mainly listed in Hong Kong capital markets. And we already have CDB Leasing, CSCC Leasing, and Far East Horizon Leasing listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So we trust more and more leasing house will set up a Hong Kong office, and just not the rep office. Maybe we have more people coming to Hong Kong to set up the entity with a bigger, larger operation team, and especially after the new tax regime for leasing elected.
Yep.
So
thank you, Jack.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed, that we will move on to the Hong Kong new tax shipping finance tax.
Okay.
Tax leasing issue later, and of course that I'm very pleased to hear that you will have a larger team in Hong Kong, which I believe, of course, we don't have any representative, from Hong Kong government today, but I believe that that we will be very pleased to hear that, and of course that you will elaborate it further in detail next. But let me ask you, Kenneth, because you are based in Hong Kong, and you are also the executive member of Hong Kong Shipowners Association, and also that you have helped the Hong Kong government in quite a lot of policy making for the shipping related. So what's your view on this issue, and whether you still whether you agree? Especially, I think that you to hear Jack just mentioned that there's no real competitor to Hong Kong in this in China. So do you agree?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree with a lot of things that Jack says. But frankly, we are in a very competitive environment, and we cannot just sit there and hope, that whatever our forefather has done, can carry us through. Obviously, what our forefather have done, would give us a lot of help. But let's face it, shipping is a very global business, and a shipping company, whether you call it a ship owner or ship lessor, they can base the fleet anywhere. They can base their management office anywhere, right? So what is it that make the shipping center successful is the ability to attract this ecosystem to be based there and continue to grow there. And when you talk about this ecosystem or this maritime cluster, it is really the ability to attract the commercial principles. The commercial principles that make the important decisions, the major decision about the buy-sell of the vessels, the employment, of the vessels, and then the rest of the ecosystem will follow them, right? I mean, Jack mentioned bankers, lawyers, insurance companies, charterers, brokers, everybody will follow the principles. And so, what do the principles look for? They look for the stability and certainty. So, in a place like Hong Kong, I think we'll go further into why we need a new tax regime, and I will emphasize to complement a very useful and helpful regime under 23B of the Inland Revenue Ordinance in Hong Kong that has served Hong Kong very well since the early 90s in providing the tax certainties. But time has changed. There are more business models, and there are more regulations. And so these maritime leasing bill comes at a very opportune time to complement what we have already. And all this effort is really to help to grow and to keep the maritime cluster. And if I may say, couple more words, on China. Hong Kong is part of China, and we got to look into how Hong Kong can flourish under state policies. And very thankfully, now China is drawing up its 14th five-year plan, but in the 13th five-year plan, it has mentioned specifically Hong Kong's role as a finance, shipping, and trading center. And so with the right state policies, and it's no coincidence that the Hong Kong government would develop, the maritime leasing bill with the full blessing of the state. And we are also in the Greater Bay Area, the fastest growing area within China, with a lot of initiatives that would link also to develop business and also the shipping activities, with the international community. So we're definitely in the right place, and it is really up to us together to attract the responsible and sustainable capital to grow Hong Kong as a shipping center further. And I think we can talk about the leasing, we can talk about sustainability and environmental issues, a bit later. And all these, Hong Kong would continue to put an emphasis on.
Thank you, Kenneth. And Gautam, we know that you are based in Thailand, and you also probably understand that actually Hong Kong. I understand actually that Hong Kong and Thailand has a very close cooperation on economic. And also Hong Kong is very actively promoting the business among the ASEAN countries. And so what's your view? I understand that our firm, the Hugh Dickinson, has recently helped you to make a closing of vessel transactions. So why you choose Hong Kong, and what is the incentive that you think Hong Kong can still make to go through these challenges and be stronger?
Thanks, Edward. So Hong Kong within the region is arguably the dominant trading and financial center. So from our perspective, it's the obvious place to go and try and find sources of capital. In addition, a key asset of Hong Kong is the breadth and depth of shipping expertise that exists in the city. Now, combine both of those things, the financiers are able to formulate and then deliver financial solutions to companies within the region. So that's very attractive. And so that helps companies like us also better navigate the COVID-19 crisis. Now, speaking about COVID-19, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. COVID-19, there's vaccines, as we all know, which are going to be hitting the market quite soon. The COVID-19 crisis has brought unprecedented pain to all of us, to the market, but it has also brought unprecedented number of opportunities. And I think here's an opportunity for Hong Kong to take advantage of those opportunities, which, by the way, are not going to last for more than 6 months or a year. And as far as geopolitical friction is concerned, I think that business plays a pivotal role in helping alleviate these tensions. Business, of course, facilitates a very close interaction, people-to-people interaction. And so I think in order to alleviate these tensions, Hong Kong should perhaps increase the level of engagement that it has within the region, but also globally. So I think Hong Kong has, all the right ingredients to seize these opportunities. It's got all the shipping expertise, the financial expertise, the legal infrastructure. But time is short because the opportunities that we are seeing today, they're not going to be there in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. I think this really helpful for us to have a background of today's topic regarding Hong Kong's role as a financing and capital raising hub. And now I think that we have, especially Jack and Kenneth have already mentioned about the new tax regime for leasing, which I think after a long time waited by all of us. And now we have this bill passed in June this year, and it will come into effect in the forthcoming year. So, Jack, you have already commented on this new leasing tax regime. I would like to invite you to continue to elaborate a bit further regarding your view as regards this new taxation bill, and whether it will encourage, including your company and other Chinese mainland company enterprises, to come to Hong Kong and then to have the presence in Hong Kong for their future ship leasing business. Jack, please.
Thank you, Edward. Yeah. As I just mentioned, of course, just as present, a number of leasing companies based in the mainland already have a presence in Hong Kong. Although their Hong Kong base is just primarily used for obtaining financing rather than for actual leasing operations. So it is likely the attractively of the new tax regime will promote these leasing companies to further expand their presence. Yeah, just like I just mentioned. So for our company, for CMB Leasing, so we was planning to send more people to sit in Hong Kong office, but because of COVID-19, so we delayed a little bit. But we still have people waiting in Shanghai. So maybe early of next year, if the vaccine coming, so we will send more people to Hong Kong. And of course, we just wanted to put some of our decision maker there, or just to do the actual daily operation for leasing business. So I think also in China, the increasing popularity and the growth of ship leasing, more and more leasing house coming for doing shipping or aviation business. And the tax, of course, is very important elements for the company to consider where to choose their operating location. For aviation, all of the Chinese leasing house, we have Dublin office. So, and even the Dublin also want to promote their shipping business. So I think why not Hong Kong to introduce the lower tax regime earlier? So we have the advantage. Why we come so late? So and we have the mainland resources. We have a lot of the elements from the shipyards, from the trader, from the cargo owners. So we have all of the advantages, but the tax regime comes a little bit late. So we think, of course, we have a very bright future for Hong Kong. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Despite of the delay, I think it's better than nothing. I would like to invite James and Kenneth, I think, to comment, because you both are actually based in Hong Kong, and of course, that the new tax regime brings a lot of opportunities for all the ship financiers. But you also, I think, I'm not sure that whether you feel any pressure, because that means also, like CMB Leasing, there will be more competitors come to this market. So James, would you please share with us first, and then Kenneth?
I think it's a good thing. That means I've got new potential employer. Why would that be a bad thing?
Don't let Citi listen here to that.
Well, I think I never believe in competition. I think I believe in collaborations. Honestly, having this regime in Hong Kong is really good, not just only for Hong Kong, but also for global shipping as a whole. We are going through not just only the US-China geopolitical tension here, we are also looking into embarking a journey of green shipping, ESG, sustainability, responsibility. Most of the shipping sectors have barely just climbed back from the financial crisis itself and starting to make profit. How are they gonna invest their own money into new ships that could be untested in terms of technology? How are they gonna build up their balance sheets to replace all of those ships at one go in 2030? We're supposed to cut down the carbon emission. Just only basing the fact that we would have 2030. I think the COVID-19 itself has accelerated the process that to prepare ourselves today, having leasing company in the shipping space is actually very good because they have got a much bigger balance sheets to raise capital and even invest in green technology together with shipyards so that the shipping company can concentrate on what they are doing best, is moving goods from A to B, not necessarily as investing in ships itself, because that would incorporate it into the investment element in there that in fact created a lot of speculation in the past, right? Not only the ship owners will get affected, and in fact, banks will also get infected if we continue to just allow that situation. But having leasing company in the picture, I think it gives opportunities for us, for everyone to prepare for the next century, for the next era we're going to come into. I always speak at the conferences or podium that I'm single, I don't have kids. So I don't really care how the world is going to burn. But you guys all have, many of us will have family, have kids. How are we going to prepare that for them? I think the COVID-19 say it very clearly because this affects everyone. We can't just say that we are not affected at all. So I think by having this in place and having the right people, right knowledge, I don't see that as a competition. I'm so glad that it happens.
Yep, thank you, James. How about you, Kenneth? Any additional comments?
Well, actually, if I may, right, because I'm very close to the drafting of this bill, and so if I can make just a couple clarification. Firstly, Edward, with due respect, the bill was passed in June, and the bill is actually active retroactively from the April onwards, right? So the bill is already in place, and so the bill has two parts. For any the qualifying ship lessor, it is zero tax. This is in line with all these the world's territorial concept of taxation. For vessels, if they generate the income in international water, the income will not be taxed. And then the additional feature would be for any qualifying ship leasing managers, the tax will be halved from 16.5% to 8.25. So James and I, would have the future, the running some companies, that will pay half tax. If somehow, we somehow, we buy this idea so much, and we probably will, and the thing is, if I made for Jack's comments regarding how this bill was drafted, I just want to see the Hong Kong government's determination on this one, right? Actually, it started in the Financial Services Development Council after they have drafted the aviation paper, and it's in the process of enacting that into law. It is natural for them to think of the maritime leasing. But when it comes to maritime leasing, as I mentioned quickly, it is versus aviation. Maritime did not start with nothing. Maritime started with 23B as the bedrock, of tax. And then, and then there are also other technical issues regarding OECD, the OECD's BEPS, and there are a series of new regulations that has to be tackled conveniently at the same time. So it has taken a while to overcome the issue and to come up with the paper. And then the paper was quickly endorsed by the governments, by the chief executive, and followed up closely by the Hong Kong Maritime and Ports Board. there's a dedicated task force on tax leasing, and within 6-7 months, with the involvement of 3 bureaus, including the IRB, the bill was quickly drafted and consulted. So I just want to commend the determination of the government. Actually, it has taken a bit of time, but the process actually, to me, being very involved in it, it happened very quickly. And the bill was passed in some extraordinary circumstances in Hong Kong, as some of you would know. I just want to add one point further is, the effort does not stop here. Within the Hong Kong Maritime and Ports Board, there is a task force on commercial principles that have set up. And so the efforts is continuing to make sure that we'll continue to bring the maritime cluster in Hong Kong. And one word on cooperations as a bank with the Chinese leasing companies or other leasing companies. Really, in Hong Kong, we see each other as partners because by definition, we would provide different tiers of capital. And ultimately, the important part is that we want to be together, all the responsible and sustainable capital. We want to group ourselves together. We want to make sure that we will be financing the right assets, financing the right people, so that, like what James said, our children, our grandchildren can enjoy a very, very great world.
Thank you, Kenneth. I think, Gautam, after you have listened now the views expressed by all the lenders, then what is your point as a borrower? And also you see the very clear message from Kenneth that indeed the Hong Kong government has recently set up the task force to attract more commercial principals, i.e. the ship owners and operators, to come to Hong Kong, to build up a stronger maritime cluster in Hong Kong. So whether you will also consider bringing your company to Hong Kong as well. Gautam.
Well, okay, so any steps taken to improve the availability of finance to regional borrowers is a very, very welcome step. And it makes a lot of sense for Hong Kong to be moving in this direction. As I said, Hong Kong has great infrastructure and legal infrastructure, very good financial system, etc. So it's very logical. So we didn't really make a move over there, but what we did do is we did benefit from this new policy, if you will. So we recently entered into a transaction with Sinopec Leasing of Hong Kong, which your firm kindly helped us with, and it was a very good experience, very professional firm, and hopefully we will do more such transactions with Hong Kong companies in the years ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. I think given today's topic, it is maybe also appropriate for us to discuss something from a wider picture of financing and capital raising. And we have so far heard all the positive things that Hong Kong will remain to be one of the best financing and capital raising hubs in the world. So Julian, as you just mentioned that you are running the asset management, a very large company in that regard. So from your point of view, how important do you think the ESG, which also briefly mentioned by James as well, nowadays when raising capital, and then could green financing be seen as another channel of raising funds for shipping companies in the future? Julian.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Edward. My fund that I run, we are an impact-only transportation equity fund. So for us, it's what we do. It's in our business model. It's everything that we invest. So for us, it's absolutely critical. And I would say that the people who invest with us and we asset manage on their behalf, this is an increasingly important theme on a global basis. So as you think about the mega trend, which the environment really is, the climate crisis, which we see that the fires burning in Australia and the Amazon, this is now on the agenda of every large pension fund, endowment. These are really substantial issues. So I think from a Hong Kong perspective, what is the opportunity? The opportunity is that this mega trend, this incredibly moral and important issue, is something which Hong Kong can really help shape and be a key participant and stakeholder in. That means that as Hong Kong builds up some of those capabilities in green finance and an ecosystem surrounding green finance, that creates a key capability, because within the Asia Pacific area, there really isn't a green finance hub. And for that early mover, and Hong Kong on every regard, they can make those steps forward, understanding better how to understand what the regulatory regime is, understanding green bonds in a broad sense, the rating surrounding green bonds. What are investors thinking? What are the major trends? Once that knowledge base has been well established, that becomes a really key capability. So for me, Hong Kong is already doing great things, as are many other parts of China. But I think the real opportunity is to connect globally, because this is a global issue, and create an ecosystem of knowledge and capability in green finance in a very broad sense, because I think that would be a unique characteristic. We can talk about competitive centers, Tokyo and Singapore and Shanghai and all the other great financial centers in Asia Pacific. But I think the opportunity is for Hong Kong to position itself as the leading key green finance hub. We have a great stock exchange. It's where institutional capital is now focused. There's $40 trillion of capital which has an ESG filter, equity filter, which is a huge amount of money. And this is on every single person's agenda. And in shipping, time has now come. The bell has been rung. The customers are thinking about it. The yards are being forced to react to it. The banks now are, this is on the top of everybody's agenda, right? You know, when Kenneth and James and go into their credit committees, probably, I'm going to guess that this is one of those key points. And for us, this is everything that we do. This is super important. And then there's a really important person that we haven't talked about yet, which is in the box below me, which is Gautam. The ship owners are, they're making that change. They are going to be moving from high carbon shipping to low carbon shipping. Where does the capital come from to allow that to form up? And that's a lot of debt and equity capital. That's $2 to $3 trillion. So for Hong Kong, there's a big prize. And there's a big challenge to solve. So I think it's really up to Kenneth, James, Jack, and all of us to try and make that happen. So I think lots to do.
Yep, thank you, Julian. Indeed, actually, the IMO has also set up the very challenging targets for shipping as well. That in 2030 we have a short-term target to reduce the GHG emission 40% comparing with the total quota in 2018, and then until 2050 that we need to achieve the zero carbon emission. So that's very challenging actually for the global shipping business. So Kenneth, I'd like to ask, especially for the green funding for shipping companies, what is your company's investment decision-making process when you whether, for example, the environmental, social, and governance factors alongside with the financial factors are the important elements when you consider making the funding for that particular company? Yes, please, Kenneth.
Thank you, Edward. I think, quite frankly, I think we have to say humbly that we are still searching our way. Being a signatory, initial signatory of the Poseidon Principle, and now the close to 20 banks are involved is a very good start. Again, I want to reiterate, for us banks, we don't want to be the police of the industry, but rather we just like to group like-minded people together. At the moment, we just want to collect the figures together, analyze the pool of figures to see how collectively we can make use of these numbers and devise some solutions and make things better. The remunerations, incentives, the pricing incentives, and will come. And already we can see that a lot of the capacity incentive because investors and banks would would like to do their part in the in advancing this push, on the environmental fronts. We see a lot of capital, coming into this space. And regarding Hong Kong's position, I think we are extremely well placed. Firstly, as an international city, for this decarbonization the objectives, 2030, 2050 are very close to our heart already. Plus more, with China making public announcement, our president making public announcement that China will be carbon neutral by 2060. I think this is even a bigger undertaking, than what IMO is trying to get us to do. And for people who may say how this is going to be accomplished, I would just say that it's going to be accomplished somehow. In a way, China is very easy to be understood. If we look at what has been written in the 12th five-year plan, the 13th five-year plan, a lot of things are completed to the dot, right? And the 14th five-year plan is being drafted. So I would encourage people to look at those very carefully. And these innovations, environmental objectives are all in the forefront. And we are really in the right place. And also we're in the Greater Bay Area with Shenzhen, the Silicon Valley of China, just a few miles away from us, with a lot of human resources, with a lot of capital ready to be invested in this space. We are at the right place to make advancements. But I would humbly say that, it's not that we have a lot of solutions right now and we are pushing people to do this or that. It is more like, an attitude that we group like-minded people together to find the collective solution or solutions.
Yep, thank you, Kenneth. Given time that we only have probably less than 4 minutes, so I'd like to invite each of you to have a concluding remark for today's discussion. What's your feel? What's your views? Probably I start with Gautam first.
Well, I guess I will just repeat what I said earlier, which is that I think a couple of things. So first of all, I think COVID-19 has presented the world and Hong Kong with unprecedented number of opportunities. However, those opportunities are not going to last forever. Hong Kong should build on its strengths in shipping, in finance, in trading, and capture and to seize those opportunities, not just within Hong Kong, but within the region and globally. And that will also help in alleviating the tensions, the geopolitical tensions that we talked about.
Thank you, Gautam. Julian.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I would think that the opportunity is really quite substantial, and I would really double down on Hong Kong positioning itself as a green finance center. There's nobody else is doing it right now. The London is trying, and they're doing a good job in Europe. But I think there's a really big opportunity for Hong Kong, and marine's obviously going to be a really important part of this, to position Hong Kong as that green finance center beyond shipping for the Asia Pacific. So I would encourage, and I know everybody's going to do that on this call, I would encourage everybody to really support Hong Kong in making that move, because it's well underway. And I think the reward is huge.
Thank you, Julian. Very encouraging. Jack?
Yes. I think, Hong Kong has an excellent legal system, a very stable financial system, a large volume of high quality professional financial personnel. So a lot of opportunities. And we are for leasing house, we have a lot of cooperation with Citibank, with Kenneth, with Julian, and in the future. And Gautam already have closed the deals with leasing house. So when we move to Hong Kong, of course, this is a very great cluster for shipping. And we firmly believe that Hong Kong's unique advantages and strengths as an international financial center will not only lead a weekend or weave, but in fact become more solid. Yeah, definitely Hong Kong have a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. And James?
I think I would. Hong Kong, it means the port of fragrance. I think that takes years to really become where Hong Kong is, but not without any challenges. in the future, like Kenneth mentioned, that we will still have to pieces a lot of pieces together. Look at the panel here. You will see how diverse we are from different countries. But one thing in common is we are working towards a better industry. And Hong Kong is an established financial center that have enough talents and also always bringing in new talents, very international, to come up with ideas that would be benefit for the globe. I think this is something that all of us would have these opportunities or even obligation to really make it happen. I think this will be a good chance for doing so. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, James. And Kenneth, last word for you.
Oh, thank you. First, you have given me a lot of airtime today, so I'll just finish by saying that Hong Kong, from the central government, from our chief executive in Hong Kong, we are very, very determined as a group to make sure that we would have the sustainable and the responsible capital coming to Hong Kong, and to continue to develop Hong Kong as a major shopping center. And we will never stop, and we will always try to find innovations and always try to find the right regulations to help.
Many thanks indeed. I trust that we have a very fruitful discussion today, and I personally, and I believe that all the audience have enjoyed this very insightful discussion. So now I give you to you, Nicholas.
Well, again, all I have to say is thank you. Indeed, it has been a great discussion. You guys did really great. Thank you very much. And you gave a very positive and upbeat message for Hong Kong, and very realistic. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all in person in Hong Kong.
Thank you.
Next year.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.